and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham area municipal access, both of our TV stations, Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. We're also on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM and 88.1 The Biff in Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, and that surrounding area. Also online, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or join us on the top right of our homepage, as well as on our Facebook pages, facebook.com/civiccentertv15 and facebook.com/lakesfm. And also joining me today in the studio, as always, is Ronnie Dahl.
Poof! Just like that, Tyler.
It's over. Just that quickly. As quick as the weekend begins, it goes away. What the heck?
I am with you, and it was such a busy weekend. I got nothing done that I needed to get done.
Yeah, it's another one of those. Oh, look at all the time I have here. I can get it done. I know. Let me relax a little bit. I'll take care of this in a couple hours. Then a couple hours goes by, and it's the end of Sunday. What the heck?
I know, and I keep saying I'm going to cut back on caffeine, but this morning I just had to go ahead and get a Red Bull.
Yeah, some of those days, you just need it.
And I will say too, Tyler, holy cow, what is going on at the gas station?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's just like it keeps going down. It goes down a little bit, you get a little bit of hope, and then boom, right back up.
I was like, I have a meeting after the show today, so I have to bring, drive my SUV, and needed to get gas. And I was like, wait, am I seeing that price right? Mm-hmm. And so I was one of the really cheap people who put in like $10 until I can get to Costco and fill it up, because, it's always cheaper at Costco. But yeah. I think it was like $3.30, $3.40, and I was just like, and that's for regular unleaded.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Whew. I'm glad I have an electric car.
Yeah, it's a good time to have an electric vehicle, because these gas prices are fluctuating in the high range.
Yeah, so I've been driving Bubbles around for so long because I don't like to put gas in my car. I'm just lazy. Yeah. And so when the SUV is low on gas, then I just cruise around in my electric car until I have to, drive a distance where it's going to, put me close to being stranded on the side of the road.
Right, exactly.
So, I haven't noticed the gas prices. And I was just shocked. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm so happy I'm not like driving to Detroit every day.
Yeah, I can't imagine those that are taking long commutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes every single day, both ways, round trip hour and a half every single day, having to fill up with gas multiple times over the course of a few weeks with these prices. Oh boy. Oh no.
Yeah. I remember back when I worked in Toledo, and I had, I think, my RAV4, so a small SUV, but I was spending almost $300-400 a week in gas going back and forth because, it was, I think, 68 miles one way.
Right.
And, you were doing that 5 days a week, and it really added up. So a lot of times I tried to plan it to get gas once you cross the border. It's always cheaper in Toledo. It's about 10 to 15 cents cheaper a gallon than what it is here. And you always find the gas stations right across the border. They were always busy with people with Michigan plates getting gas, and also getting like beer and their soft drinks because they didn't have the 10-cent can deposit in Ohio. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the world, but
I don't know.
Maybe it might have been that cyber attack, right?
Maybe that cyber attack, some trash fire in a gas plant in some office somewhere in down south in Texas caused a yeehaw price hike. I don't know.
I'll just keep plugging in the electric car.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I will say I was driving one of my friends. I went and picked her up because we went to the Pontiac Art Jam on Friday night. So I picked her up in Bubbles, the smart car, and she'd never been in it. Every single person's like, this is so much bigger than you think. And it's very zippy. They act like it's a golf cart and it's only going to go 30 miles. Right. I'm like, this is a legal car. Right. And, I've had it up to 100 miles per hour.
It's a street legal vehicle. What do you expect?
And there's that little Fiat car, it's actually about the same size as the smart car. It's just that the tailgate is rounded instead of straight down.
Right.
So I think people look at it differently.
Yeah, it looks more like a traditional car, and so they're like, okay, well that's a car, but this one that's comparable size and does exactly the same thing. No, this is more like I'm shocked that this is a motor vehicle. No, it's a street legal vehicle. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I may not be taking it to the east side of Detroit and participating in any late night drag races with it.
No, you're not exactly intimidating vehicles on the highway to get over. No, but you can still drive it.
Hey, did you catch the news this weekend? The video of Kwame Kilpatrick, former mayor of Detroit, back in the city.
Yes.
Announcement: he's getting married, but he's also becoming a minister, and he was behind the pulpit this weekend.
Yep,
preaching?
I did see some snippets of him preaching behind the pulpit this weekend. Yeah, big news in the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah, so it's really going to be fascinating to kind of see his next journey in life. Is he redeemed from his previous crimes? Did prison life change him?
Yeah, I think I think a lot of people are going to be in the camp of I'll believe it when I see it. And even then there will still be some skepticism because there's a lot of bad blood there from earlier on before his prison sentence and all the things that he had done and put the city through his bad decisions and his actions during that time. So I think a lot of people are very skeptical about this newfound view on life that he allegedly has.
I wonder how long before Bobby Ferguson resurfaces.
That's another question.
Back in the day, Tyler, I was working as a researcher for Steve Wilson, who was the big investigative reporter for Channel 7 back during the Kilpatrick scandal, and having to review that Michigan State Police investigation, and there were so many things going on behind the scenes. And back then, businesses and business owners were so afraid to talk because I've heard these crazy stories, like, as the mayor, he would walk into a business or, members of his EPU, and basically just take whatever they wanted and walk out. And then if the business owner complained, all of a sudden the inspection department would be coming down on them.
Interesting.
So, it was a fascinating time in Detroit.
That's for sure. Yeah. Very tumultuous time down there at that point.
We could use an investigative reporter like Steve Wilson back in the area.
We could.
We have Charlie LeDuff.
We do.
So I think LeDuff came back at the end of that. So, hey, jumping into the headlines, did you see a new vaccine? Could be on its way. Novavax, the fifth company to receive a large federal support for its COVID-19 vaccine, is as good as its competitors. It's according to data released this morning by the company. Vaccine is more than 90% effective in protecting against infection and even more protective against some of the variants. That's according to a trial of nearly 30,000 volunteers in the U.S. and Mexico. No one who received the active vaccine fell seriously ill. As with other vaccines, though, common side effects include tenderness and pain around the injection site, muscle aches, headaches, and fatigue. The company expects to request federal authorization for its vaccine this summer after it completes the final chemistry, manufacturing, and control requirements. Novavax took longer to prove the safety and effectiveness of its vaccine, in part because the company is so much smaller than other vaccine makers, only had about 40 employees when the pandemic began. So it's really struggled to ramp up production. 40 employees. Assuming its vaccine is authorized for use, Novavax expects to produce about 100 million doses per month by the fall and about 150 million doses per month by the end of the year. So another vaccine on the horizon. But right now in the United States, we have plenty of supply of the vaccine, but globally it can really be used.
Yeah, and that's where the big impact would be with another vaccine like this being approved here in the U.S. is its approval in other countries and its ability to be distributed outside of the U.S. Of course, it would be available to be used in the U.S. and be available to people that would be interested in getting vaccinated and to vaccination sites. But again, I don't think there's a scenario where another available vaccine is going to make people more eager to go and get vaccinated against COVID-19. This is just going to be another option on the international stage to help ramp up production of COVID-19 vaccinations, get shots into arms of people in other nations, and try to catch everybody up to where we're at as we slowly move towards 70%, if we even get there.
Health officials around the globe are really paying close attention to the Delta variant, which was first, diagnosed in India. Now in the UK and England, they're saying that they may not, reduce the restrictions for a few more weeks because of the variant. So really kind of watching that closely as well, because I feel like so many people feel like we're on the backside of this pandemic. We're coming out of it. But let's just hope we don't go back the other way with some of these variants.
Yeah, the biggest question is going to be those variants. And we've spoken previously with the Chief Medical Director of the Oakland County Health Division, Dr. Russell Faust, who has referred to this as a race against the clock with these vaccines versus these variants, because there is a chance that a variant could potentially pop up that may be more powerful than some or all of these vaccines. Would that be something that happens very quickly? Not necessarily, but it could be years down the line. And so that is why it's so important that we not only get our nation and our state vaccinated, but also help the rest of the world as well to knock out some of the potential of these variants, like the Delta variant, becoming even more powerful, mutating themselves, and getting to a point where we circle back to where we've already been in this pandemic.
I threw in this next headline, Tyler, because I really think that going forward, this is going to continue to be a part of our conversation, and more lawsuits could be following. So a judge does rule in favor of a Houston hospital requiring employees to be vaccinated against COVID-19. A judge dismissed a lawsuit against Houston Methodist Hospital by employees who opposed a COVID-19 vaccine mandate as a condition of employment. So on Saturday, U.S. District Court Judge Lynn Hughes ruled against Jennifer Bridges and 116 of her fellow Houston Methodist co-workers who sued to block the COVID-19 vaccination requirement. Houston Methodist Hospital moved to dismiss the case. Bridges and her co-workers claimed the COVID-19 vaccines used here in the U.S. were experimental and dangerous, and that it would be wrongful to be terminated for refusing to get vaccinated. So the privately run Houston Methodist Hospital countered, saying not only were Bridges' claims untrue, but that under Texas law, workers are protected from termination only if they refuse to commit a criminal act that carries criminal penalties. An attorney representing the plaintiffs said an appeal is expected. I think we're going to see more of these lawsuits going forward over the next few weeks and months if more companies follow suit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be the big question here will end up being, can an employee make vaccination, particularly vaccinations against COVID-19 that are fairly new and are more or less experimental requirements for employment, and say, well, look, you can decide to get the vaccine or not get the vaccine, but if you don't get the vaccine, we can determine that that's grounds for termination of employment and bring someone else in that is vaccinated. Is that legal? Is that okay and permissible? And where does that precedent get set? I think this is one of those kinds of cases where, not necessarily this case in Houston, but some other case may very well end up in the Supreme Court for a ruling down the line, because this is going to be an issue that I think repeatedly pops up across the country in different variations of what we're seeing here from this hospital down in Houston, Texas.
Because what happens if, an employer requires it, someone gets the vaccine, and they have long-term effects from that vaccine.
Right.
Would that employer then be, held responsible? And usually there's always language that, so many of these companies have really good attorneys that put that language in that, kind of protects the company. But it really is going to be fascinating. And I can see in a lot of cases, too, it's almost like a grandfathered situation where all new employees will be required, but the other ones, it's optional. That's kind of usually how some of these workplaces get around these changes. So we'll be watching that, of course. Hey, remember way back when the mask mandate first happened, Michigan officials asked police to help levy the threat for COVID violators. That's according to some emails. So members of the governor's administration encouraged local police agencies this past October to aggressively help the state enforce restrictions on mask wearing and social distancing. Invitations they declined, though, according to emails released through an open records request. So the messages show that Robert Gordon, who was then the director of the state's health department, pitched the leaders of the Michigan Sheriff's Association and Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police on a plan to ask people who saw violations of COVID-19 orders to contact local police or sheriffs as appropriate. The organizations rejected the proposal, though, contending an educational effort would be much more effective to try to gain compliance. The emails were included in more than 1,200 pages of documents recently obtained by the conservative group Judicial Watch, which is based out of D.C. The messages reveal a tougher approach Whitmer's administration was considering taking on enforcement last fall after the Michigan Supreme Court struck down the governor's ability to issue executive orders, and as the second COVID-19 spike began to take hold. Now, according to the emails, ticketing would be difficult to enforce both legally and from a manpower perspective, and encourages all parties to refrain from emphasizing that message. It would be counterproductive and negative. I mean, our police departments, so many of them are understaffed as it is right now, and trying to put that pressure on them would be so overwhelming at certain points. But we did have a few cases back in the beginning of violence because of the mask mandate. What was it, up in Flint? There was a security guard that was killed after asking a lady to put on a mask, and then also, was it in Jackson, maybe? Another person was killed after a mask dispute in a convenience store. So back in the beginning, there was some violence with this. So they wanted tougher restrictions, and law enforcement was like, not a legal issue.
Yeah, and look, this is uncharted territory in our modern times for really all across the board, whether it be the Health and Human Services Department and the governor's offices, or it would be the Michigan sheriffs or Michigan police officers, whatever the case may be, enforcing these new rules that were put in place for protections in a public health manner. And I think history has shown, as we've gone through, that the educational approach was more effective. Businesses were more responsive to fixing their problems when they were approached by law enforcement or by other inspection departments saying, hey, this is not a workable solution. This is not safe against this particular virus. You need to do A, B, and C. We're not going to fine you today. We're not going to ticket you. We're not going to put your licensing or your business at risk, but we want to see improvements versus, like I said in this article, it would be very difficult to ticket people for these violations and have that be effective. And what's going to happen? You're going to have repeat offenders and then eventually have to put them into the prison system or into the jail system and have that be further clogged. I think that the educational approach decision by these organizations was ultimately the right call when asked to put additional pressure on. And taking a greater educational approach was a nice counter to this as well.
And, of course, you can always get the latest headlines. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. The headlines are posted each and every morning. And then, of course, at the top of the page, we put direct links to various resources to help you continue to navigate this pandemic world. However, we do hope that we are on the backside of this pandemic. Summer is looking good right now. With that, too, the big thing about summer big blockbuster movies.
Yes.
And plus on those days where it's so hot, it's always great to go to a movie theater because it's cool and refreshing. So how is the movie industry? We'll be joined by Paul Glantz here next from Emagine Entertainment on the Megacast.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Say thank you for taking time out of this Monday to be with us here on the Megacast. Tyler, have you been to the movies since they've reopened?
I've not been to the movies since they have reopened. The last time I went to a movie theater was a few weeks before the shutdowns were put in place. I don't recall what movie I saw, though.
Well, the movie theaters are back open, and as we are hopefully on the backside of this pandemic and never to return again. But it's still struggling. I don't know if you saw the news over the weekend. The Main Art Theater in downtown Royal Oak had on its marquee that it was going to be closing after 50 years. Still a rough time for the movie industry. Paul Glantz, co-founder and chairman of Emagine Entertainment, joins us now on the Megacast. Great to have you back with us. How are you?
I'm great, Ronnie. Thanks for having me.
Happy Monday to you.
Thank you. Happy Monday to you.
So tell us, we're back open. Is it back to normal or still pretty slow?
Well, we're building back, and I'm encouraged by the trend line. We've had almost a hockey stick type recovery in terms of patron count and revenue since January. And we're finding that each month we're successfully seeing more guests than the preceding month. So I'm very optimistic about our industry, especially given the fact that there's a lot of good product coming out very soon as well.
And really, when we're looking at this, Paul, you have to have great movies to get people back in the theater.
Yeah, that's certainly been one of our challenges, of course, that while the pandemic has been raging, Hollywood was very reluctant to give exclusive rights to theaters. And you can't really blame them under the circumstances. But at this point, it's safe to return. In fact, what's little known is that there had not been a single outbreak of COVID among moviegoers worldwide. Wow. So that's why I felt like maybe we were particularly singled out wrongly. But at this point in time, especially with the number of folks who have been vaccinated and so forth, it's time for me to say, come on down.
Concessions are back open?
Yes, we're fully open. We're subject to capacity constraints through the end of this month. And then on July 1st, that goes away as well.
Because, it doesn't matter if you try to make popcorn at home. Even when you try to get fancy with your popcorn at home, it never, ever tastes as good as the popcorn at the movie theater.
Well, there's some certain secrets to it. You've got to cook it on very high heat. You've got to use plenty of oil. And the other thing I would tell you is that, we're in the experience business these days. And you can make popcorn at home. It may not be as good as you know, But, we've had to pick up our game. So, for example, now you can get olive oil popcorn, cheese corn, caramel corn, and mix them all together if you like. So we're trying to make it even more unique and special.
Yeah, my husband and I always have kind of the dispute when we go, because even before COVID, at least at the one in Birmingham, you could mix, like there were the different toppings you could sprinkle on your popcorn, like ranch and some of the other ones. And he always wants his plain. I always want mine this, but we're cheap, so we just get the huge big bucket to share. So it's great though. It feels so good to try to get back to normal, but I know the theaters still aren't quite as packed. But you've been so creative throughout this entire pandemic. I'm on the website and I'm excited about the flashback movies coming back to the theater. I want to see Jaws today.
My guess is you'll be able to see it. We're delighted to be showing some of those classic films. And that's been one of the survival techniques, right? During this period of time when Hollywood wasn't giving us anything new. Well, let's recycle some of the old that were particularly memorable.
And so with that, too, Paul Glantz with us here on the Megacast. He's the co-founder and chairman over at Emagine Entertainment. With that, throughout, because you have been pretty creative, what do you think is going to stick around?
I think, honestly, Ronnie, folks are yearning to be back to normal. I think once films like Fast and Furious 9 come out and we see some Marvel pictures and so forth, young people who have been, particularly resilient to this disease, I think will be early adopters. They'll be coming back in droves. And so I would respectfully tell you that I'm optimistic by the end of this year, this will all be in the rearview mirror. And as you said earlier, never to be repeated.
We hope so. And I will say, like, Black Widow is coming out July 9th. That is definitely a movie that you can't watch at home. You need to see that in the movie theater.
I agree with you. I think that it is a different experience watching films in a theater than it is at home. And again, it's incumbent upon us and as exhibitors to make that a really good experience. And that's what we're striving to do every day for our guests.
Paul, I know you guys are going to be hosting the Juneteenth Film Festival. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, when the unfortunate circumstances arose about a year ago, death of George Floyd and so forth, we felt like we needed to do something, but not just pay lip service to to our commitment. And so I'm a big believer in the value of education. And so I look at this as a wonderful opportunity to simultaneously highlight the artistic accomplishments of African-American artists, writers, producers, actors, actresses, and then concurrently use it as a platform to raise money for the United Negro College Fund. And so we're delighted to be holding the festival again this year, and we expect to make it an annual event here on out.
That's great to know. And so what are some of the movies that are going to be a part of this?
I don't have that right at my fingertips, but they're all on our website right now. And it's a lot of really interesting and artistically curated films. I'm not the expert when it comes to product. In fact, I'm the business guy.
Right.
Paul, you stay out of the picture. You just handle the accounting and the finance, and we'll do the rest of it for you.
See, and that's why you build a team, right? You have a team. Everyone has their expertise.
And so I'd like to believe I'm reasonably smart enough to surround myself with people who know things that I don't know.
Paul Glantz with us here on the Megacast. He's the co-founder and chairman for Emagine Entertainment. And with that, too, you talked a little bit about the business side. What has it been like for you trying to run this business over the past year, Paul?
Well, we're very fortunate that we went into it in good financial shape, and we're also blessed to have some terrific bankers that have supported us during this period of time. Our business is one that's very heavily laden toward fixed costs. We have occupancy, for example, and there's been no abatement whatsoever, for example, for property taxes. So we're paying real and personal property taxes while we're closed. We've typically got a mortgage payment on certain buildings. Others have rent. And so utilities, you name it. So we've got more fixed costs relative to a lot of businesses. And so it was really challenging to be able to continue to fund all those expenses, notwithstanding the fact there were times we had exactly zero revenue coming in. In fact, between, I think it was April 1 and December 31st, we had lost 97% of our revenue compared to the preceding year.
Wow. And you think about that from a business standpoint, trying to recover from it. But even as we start to reopen and so many of us start to go about life as we once knew it, we have to remember, so many places are still under capacity limits, but also there's the issue with employee shortages. Are you having a hard time getting enough employees to, be able to open the doors as long as you want them to be open?
We've certainly seen wage inflation, and we're paying our high school students $12 an hour, and so other wages go up commensurately. But I'll tell you what, we are very fortunate. We realize that the true underpinning of our business is the quality of our teammates. And so all of our general managers remained on full pay throughout the pandemic. We kept a lot of our assistant managers on for as long as we could. Then we also made the decision to continue to provide 100% company paid health insurance for our teammates who were furloughed. And I just didn't want folks to be able to make the decision or have to make a decision about, do I buy groceries or pay for my health insurance? And so we dug deep to be able to pay for those things and to try to treat our teammates, even those who were furloughed, with the utmost of grace. And I think it's paid dividends. We've got a lot of our teammates back. We have all the institutional knowledge. We have great general managers, assistant managers, pardon me. And I don't think we're in as bad shape as some businesses because of those techniques.
Yeah, that is one thing that we didn't hear a lot of people talking about was the insurance for so many of the employees as well when they were furloughed. And so it really says a lot about you and the others involved with Emagine Entertainment that you recognize that and really work to, try to survive and keep, some of these employees on during the toughest time. And with that, Paul, too, you survived. Do you think that this year or next year is going to be a good year? Because one thing we know is people are so excited to get back to life. However, because of all the streaming services now, it's kind of taken away that excitement of going to the movie theaters because it's streaming at the same time that it's at the theater.
Well, our trade association, I think, characterized it properly. There's what they call a pandemic release model and a normal release model. And we were evolving out of the pandemic release model. Warner Brothers had announced earlier this year that it was going to simultaneously release all of its feature films on HBO Max plus theaters. But we've seen even Warner Brothers say that beginning in 2022, their feature releases will be coming first to theaters again. And Disney, I think, will be following a similar path, as well as the other major studios. And so it's true, and you were spot on, that the streaming competition, and we call it an indirect competitor, is becoming more prolific. And the in-home experiences, we know, have gotten so much better that's why we've had to pick up our game over the years. And I think we did the right thing by installing powered, heated, reclining chairs, offering multiple types of popcorn, being able to offer online ticket purchases. And the newest innovation we've got is that you're soon going to be able to buy all of your food and beverage on your smartphone before you arrive, and then we'll be happy to deliver it right to your seat.
What?
Yeah, so it's all about service.
Look at that. It's creating that experience that you can't get at home.
Mm-hmm. And better yet, Ronnie, we'll clean up after you, too.
Wow.
You know what? You can't beat that right there. Do you anticipate that the price of a ticket is going to have to go up, though?
No, I don't think so. We are big believers that our business is driven by volume. We need guests to come out and visit us, and so we're not inclined to increase ticket prices. We'd like to avoid that at all costs, to be honest with you. We're hoping, again, that maybe with a bit of reduction in capacity, we've seen Star Southfield close. There's a competitor of ours in Ann Arbor that's closed. We now know that the Maine has closed. We're hoping that with that slight constraint in capacity that we're going to be able to garner enough volume, additional volume, to enable us not to raise ticket prices.
Because at the same time, you have Birmingham 8 now?
We do. We had the privilege of entering into a lease with Ted Fuller, who was a terrific guy and run the theater himself for a few years. And, every business has its unique nuances. And I think Ted thought that, and we certainly tried to persuade Ted that we could run it as well, if not better than he had. And so lo and behold, we have the privilege of operating the Birmingham 8. It's open now for private parties, and we're going to be throwing the doors open, I think, full-fledged in a couple days.
So with that, again, Paul Glantz with us, co-founder and chairman, Emagine Entertainment. And Paul, I love Birmingham. When you go down and you see the marquee and people put messages. I think a few weeks ago, a guy proposed to his fiancée. And, luckily she said yes. But what a great memory. And, it makes you a part of the community as well.
Isn't it fun? And it really is a credit to the Illich organization that originally revamped that marquee and brought it back to life, and so we're just very fortunate to be successors to be able to maintain that tradition.
So we should note that the Juneteenth Film Festival is going on right now until July the 1st. So you can visit the Emagine Entertainment website to get more information about some of the movies, as well as the times for those movies as well. And it's great to see that even in the middle of the pandemic, you're supporting such a great cause as well.
We're absolutely committed to it, Ronnie. We think it's the right thing, and if we can help some young person gain an education, then we know that it's going to benefit society overall.
Paul Glantz with us here on the Megacast. Paul, anything maybe you want to add that we didn't mention before we say goodbye?
I don't have much more to say, but I would encourage your viewers to download our new app. It works on both iPhone as well as Android phones, and it's much improved, and it will allow you then to purchase your food and beverage in advance while you're choosing your reserved seats.
Yes, but I will say, and you don't want to be left out, because there's nothing worse than going to the ticket box and then trying to pick a seat, and it's like, no, that one's taken, that one's taken, that one's taken.
That's right.
You want a good seat. Hey, Paul, I will say, I'm looking on the website, how in the world is Jerry Maguire 25 years old? Jerry Maguire. But you know what? For all of us that saw it back in the day, we didn't age 25 years, right?
No.
I'm 40 again. Yeah.
So as part of the flashback, Jerry Maguire, 25th anniversary, opening June 20th. I love the flashback. What a great way to kind of bring back those memories from back in the day. Paul Glantz, we always appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ronnie. It's a real pleasure being with you.
We're so happy that you've been able to survive during the pandemic. And again, we want to remind people, go to the movie theater. Go buy the popcorn. Don't sneak in the candy, because the concessions makes up a big part, of your revenue to bring the movies to us. So don't sneak in your candy. Buy it there. Get your popcorn. Go see a movie, and let's support the movie theaters, because as we've seen, and you just mentioned, some have not survived the pandemic. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, on the backside of the break, we'll be joined by Curt Lawson, the Deputy Chief over at the West Bloomfield Police Department. That's next here on the Megacast.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studios alongside Mr. Tyler Keefe. As a reminder, you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, live on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T, or you can listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM at the Biff. And if that's still not available to you, if you're stuck in the office and want a little entertainment, go ahead and watch us. We are live streaming on our Facebook page, right? It is our Facebook page today.
Yes.
So with that, makes it easy. That's what makes up the Megacast. You can catch us pretty much everywhere, which is a good thing.
It is. It is. We make it easy for everybody. Wherever you prefer to watch us. If you prefer on your TV, we got you on TV. If you prefer to listen on the radio or listen later, we got you back.
So this morning, Tyler, I was walking Trixie Dixie, and we go out on the trail, and then right there, a deer staring at us like, hi.
Hello.
What are you doing? The crazy thing is Trixie doesn't bark and go crazy.
Right.
She wants to play with him. But when I went on Facebook, one of the first videos that popped up this morning, the West Bloomfield Police Department, some of our fine officers in blue did a little bit of an animal rescue yesterday. Always fun to start your Monday off with an animal rescue. Curt Lawson with us, Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. Did you see the video? I'm sure you did.
I did see the video about 5 o'clock this morning. It was sent to me, and I don't have a lot of information, a lot of specific details, but I wanted to get that out on social media because the men and women of our department, again, going beyond the call of duty. They're helping out turtles and birds and turkeys, and now, they're helping out baby deer. So I think it's great.
It is an adorable video, so you can find it on their Facebook page. But, and with that as well, though, Curt, and we've talked about this numerous times, it really is humanizing the badge, letting people know that the men and women that are serving, they are just regular people as well. And we really need to connect with the community.
Exactly, and some of our new officers actually have brought up the fact that, like, why do we do this social media as much as we do? And I said it's a lot about marketing. It's about humanizing the badge. It was great what you just said, is letting people know that we're really just like our residents, right? We're people, we have families, we have kids, and kind of like bridging that gap. So anytime we can put stories out that, whether we're saving a turtle or a deer, or like this past Sunday, we had 3 missing people that we were able to help locate. That goes to bridge that gap between us and the community, and that's what we do so well here, and that's why we're so successful.
And so with that, too, can you give us a little bit more detail about the missing individuals?
Sure. We had a very busy Sunday. Got a call early Sunday about 9 o'clock. There's a 92-year-old male dementia patient that had walked away. And we did just a full court press. It was 82 degrees. He does not have the ability to take care of himself. So we had all of our officers out there that were on duty. We brought in our K-9 units. We brought in the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. We reached out to the West Bloomfield Fire Department that activated our Oakway system, which then brought in Bloomfield Township and Waterford and Royal Oak to assist us in trying to find this individual. And approximately 1 p.m., he was found in a wooded area, not far from his house, but actually laying down on the ground. So Situations like this where there's missing people that are vulnerable, it's a full court press to do what we can, and it worked out very well. And then later in the day, we had a missing 9-year-old who had been missing for approximately 3 hours. So obviously that's a great concern to us. And once again, we mobilized our people, and she was found safe in an apartment. She was actually visiting a friend, and the parents didn't know. And then just a short time later, we had a missing 80-year-old female. And this is where social media and our great relationship with the community comes to be such a positive. Officers were out looking for her. They saw a mom and a daughter walking on Maple. They took the time to stop, to engage those two individuals, to tell them who we were looking for. And just a very short time later, the mom and the daughter heard some moaning from the bushes. And they were able to discover this 80-year-old woman who we probably would not have discovered if it wasn't for, these people walking down the pathway. So we were able to get that elderly person to safety. And at the end of the day, everyone was okay.
Wow. And because we've all covered the stories where the outcomes have not been as uplifting and good as the outcomes in these situations, but it really is a game changer, social media, and having that connection with the community and having people look for them as well, because, a few hundred eyes are a lot better than just the ones that are on duty that day.
Correct. My first social media post that day, Sunday, I think we were right around 6,000 or 7,000 people that were interacting on that post within the community. So that's just a great asset to have, and I'm really proud of my team that helps me to deal with Facebook, the Twitter, and Instagram that we use pretty much every day.
Can you also talk a little bit? There was some incident with the dog and a shooting incident. Can you fill us in? What was that all about?
Sure. On June 6th, we got a call from multiple residents that there was a pit bull that had been running around the neighborhood, and they wanted to file a complaint. They just had enough of it. It had been going on for quite some time. So we sent some officers out there, and they were able to identify the responsible owner of that dog. It was a black pit bull. They were speaking to the owner, and the owner happened to say, "Hey, my dog was shot by my neighbor." So now the investigation is getting a little bit bigger. We're going to have to investigate having a shooting in a neighborhood right by Walnut Lake Road in Middlebelt there. We went and interviewed the responsible person, the person that had actually shot at the dog. He admitted to it, said that he was in fear for his life. So basically at this point, we're gathering information from the person that did the shooting, from the dog owner, from all of the neighbors. We did interviews with everyone. And then we submitted that to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and they're going to review that to see what kind of charges, if any, are going to be, put out there, whether it's the dog owner or the person that discharged the firearm in the neighborhood.
So with that, Curt, what is the law? I mean, if it's my dog and it gets loose, I'm responsible for the dog, right?
Correct. And we prefer that people don't shoot at dogs in the neighborhoods, with Walnut Lake Road as the backstop.
Right.
But obviously, if you're in fear of your life, if you feel you're in imminent danger of getting attacked by, someone else or a dog, you have a right to defend yourself. But we're going to push that up to the prosecutor's office, a fresh set of eyes on that to see if it was justified or not.
And it's so hard because, we've had these horrific cases in Detroit, where little kids have been mauled, but also there was the case where, a lady was being attacked, and the guy was trying to get the dog off and shot at the dog, but missed and hit the lady who was being attacked by the dog. So it can be, the outcomes we never know of these situations.
Right. The ordinance in West Bloomfield is you have to have control of your dog. At least very minimally by verbal command, but also by, we recommend a 6-foot leash or some kind of leash. I remember years ago I was running up in Clarkston, and a dog came running down the driveway and, started biting me. And it's pretty traumatic. I'm kind of a big guy, but still, if I could have got on top of a car really quick, I would have. It was pretty frightening.
Yeah, well, I'm always afraid of the Chihuahuas. They're little, but feisty. Right. Curt Lawson here with us on the Megacast. He's the Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. And, Curt, I know there's a series of bills making its way through Lansing right now talking about police reform. I hope and I feel like we have finally gotten over using the term defunding the police, because I think most people by now recognize we need police officers. It's really more about training.
Correct. I mean, I think it's about training. I think it's about consistency in how we respond to mental health issues in the community. It's about education standards. It's about robust policy and procedures. And probably the number one thing is building trust and legitimacy with the people that we police. Because if you're in a community that does not think you're legitimate or doesn't trust you, you're not going to be successful.
So with that, what are your thoughts on the state of policing today?
It's not great. I got to be honest with you. It's not great. There is and has been a significant distrust of the police by minority citizens throughout this country. Some of it is, I think a lot of it is very justified. However, I'm a true believer that a vast majority of law enforcement people are in it for the right reasons, that they are not racist. The incidents that we have seen are horrific incidents on the news, but it's a very small percentage of the millions and millions of contacts that we have with residents and citizens on a daily basis. But there does need to be reform. There needs to be consistency. We need to put the right leaders in place. I know I've told you this before. We really need to put the right leaders in place that demand transparency, community partnerships, and accountability for their people. We still have a long way to go in law enforcement. But I think all the negativity that we've seen in the media directed at law enforcement is taking a significant toll. We're seeing what I would call a brain drain from law enforcement. We're having our leaders, our senior people with all this experience getting out of the profession. And then the individuals that we're seeing applying to be police officers is what I would think is not the level that I would like to see it, which is going to cause us to have a negative effect down the road in the profession.
Yeah, I mean, the long-term impact of what's going on right now, because at some point in time, you have to hire people. You need to have officers. And what you don't want to do is, loosen the requirements to be able to fill those spots.
And I think that's what's happening. If you look at major cities, New York, Chicago, where there's literally thousands of officers walking out the door. And on the back end of that, they're hiring subpar individuals, some with criminal records, very little education, very little training. That is a major problem. When I told you this before, when I was hired in, there was 250 people that applied for 3 positions. Last month, we had 6 open positions and we had 6 people apply and we didn't take any of them. Wow. So it's a problem. It's a concern, and it's just not here in Michigan. It's across the country.
Yeah, and we should point out, too, it's state, local, and federal. Everyone is going through this situation as well. And even, if you get a good candidate, there are a lot of steps of getting hired. It's not like going to any place right now where you can basically get hired on the spot because everyone is short employees. There's a process that goes along. What is the typical hiring time frame? Is it 6 months, a year?
Well, it depends if they're going to go to the police academy or not. So, we have to have the test. We have to have the oral interview. We have to have the background. We have to have the chief's interview. So it's a process, and we're looking for ways, kind of like what we've seen in private industry, of ways to attract new talent. And, whether that's going to be signing bonuses or laterals, really pensions are a thing of the past, and I understand that, but we're going to have to find ways to attract a broader audience to this profession.
So, Curt, how does it work at West Bloomfield? Do they need to have already paid for themselves to go through the police academy, or does West Bloomfield put them through it?
So if you're a police service aide here at our front desk, after a period of 1 year, if you pass the test and the oral interview, we will put you through the academy. It's an expense of $5,000 or $6,000, but everyone else has to put themselves through the academy, which is kind of a problem because while you're going to that police academy for 6 months, you really can't have a full-time job. So the question is, how do they support themselves when there's no income coming in as they're going through the police academy. So it's really something that we're reviewing. We've had multiple meetings with the township officials on ways that we can continue to kind of be the leader in hiring and a destination point, which we have been for the last 25 years that I've been here.
With that, again, Curt Lawson with us here on the Megacast. He's the Deputy Chief for the West Bloomfield Police Department. And if we can talk, one thing is they're talking about having a registry that would basically track law enforcement officers that do get in trouble at maybe one department and then just jump to another department or another department. There's been a lot of incidents with Highland Park Police Department and them having some of the officers that maybe got in trouble at their previous employment. Should we have some type of registry for the open to the public, just like we do for doctors or lawyers?
I think that's a viable option. I think it needs to be really thought through, though. One of the things I heard discussed was every time an officer gets a citizen complaint, it's going to go into a registry. Well, people can complain about me every single day, but it doesn't mean it's justified. And I think every time someone makes a complaint because they don't like my hair or something, that shouldn't go into a registry if that it's not true, right? So I think it should be verified offenses. There is a concern, I know, among executives here, police executives throughout the state of Michigan, about individuals that are released or they resign from one department and then they just go work at another department. And those are the individuals that we need to get out of law enforcement. So I'm open to taking a look at what laws are going to be discussed and brought forward.
And we should also note, too, there are so many different jobs within the police department. So if you're someone who is a detective, maybe undercover on the narcotics team, there's a good chance you're going to have more complaints against you than maybe the neighborhood police officer. So, that's where you really need the professionals to help guide and police the own department as well.
Correct. And I think that's where we've seen some failures and I talked about the importance of leadership. The leaders need to make these difficult decisions sometimes and hold people accountable.
Curt Lawson with us here on the Megacast. So if you've been thinking about going into law enforcement and you are the type of person that the West Bloomfield Police Department wants, please consider joining the team, because the good thing about you're not only engaged with the community, but you're also a very diverse department as well. And I think that makes for a great department.
I totally agree with you. And I think that's one thing as we move forward in law enforcement is, attracting a more diverse group, letting minorities be part of the solution and help us, repair kind of the image of law enforcement. I always like knocking heads with minorities because, here in West Bloomfield, like you said, we have a huge minority population. We have a great relationship. Our last millage passed 82%. So it's just something that's really unheard of. And we have a good thing going here. And I think it's a great model for other communities to follow.
Hey, Curt, just another minute or two here with you on the show. But before we let you go, I was on your Facebook page earlier, and I know a few days ago there was also a scam alert that you had posted with Amazon. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, we have different scams on a daily basis. So it's very hard to keep up. I know that a majority of us, certainly my wife, use Amazon a lot. So when you get a call that someone has breached your Amazon account and that you're going to be out $3,000 or $4,000 unless you do A, B, and C immediately, that puts a lot of pressure on people. And we saw several cases come across our desks a couple weeks ago, and we wanted to push that out to our community to be aware. I know I've gotten several calls over the last month that there's a warrant for my arrest. So that's concerning. We continue to have these scams, and we just try to push them out. When we see an influx of a certain type of scam, we get it out on our social media.
Because can you really even investigate some of these?
Well, we do a pretty good job with it because we have the resources, but most departments, quite honestly, cannot. And, these scams often lead out of the country or out of the state, which limits our ability.
Yeah, cybersecurity is such a big issue right now. And if I was a really smart kid and good on computers, it'd be a great industry to go into.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a huge concern is, data breach, ransomware, someone coming in and locking down all of our data and demanding a ransom. That's certainly a huge concern. And we've seen that across the country. Or just someone coming in and completely locking us out of our data systems. So it's a huge concern, not only in the public sector, but also the private sector.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Curt, always great having you with us. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Nice to see you.
Go check on the baby deer.
I'm on it.
We need an update. Right. We appreciate your time. And with that, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about cybersecurity. Tyler, it's a great industry for people to go into because I think that this issue is going to continue here in the United States and across the globe as well. So we'll be speaking with the cybersecurity expert here next, here from the University of Detroit Mercy when the Megacast returns.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid. Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated?
Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
Great to have you with us here on the Monday edition of the Megacast. You can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon live. You can watch, listen, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You'll find us on Channel 15 on Comcast, 99 on AT&T, or if you're out driving around, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, or you could also watch us on Facebook as we are live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on our Facebook page. Tyler, cybersecurity has been in the news a lot lately. First, we had the pipeline, which could be why we're seeing gas prices the way they are right now, but also, the meat processing plant was also attacked.
Yeah, we've had a lot of cyber attacks recently in a number of different sectors, and with our times being so technology driven, these different sectors of business, both in the private and the public sector, as Curt Lawson talked about before the break, are becoming even bigger targets than ever before, whether it's a small or medium-sized business or some of them or a multinational corporation or state or federal agency. They're all becoming increasingly larger targets because of the amount of technology that goes into day-to-day operations.
We want to bring in Ann Kohnke. She's the Associate Professor in Cybersecurity and Information Systems Department over at the University of Detroit Mercy. Ann, great to have you with us. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be invited.
Wow. Trying to keep up with so many of these hacks keeps you pretty busy.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of information out there. You could spend quite a bit of hours just keeping up with the news.
So with that, too, you have a vast history in the IT world. Did companies anticipate that this was going to becoming a bigger issue?
Well, they were probably hoping it wouldn't. And obviously no CEO wants to be on the front page of the news that their company's been hacked. But, once you plug into the internet, you are now free game.
So with that, Ann, too, do you think this happens more often than we hear about?
Oh, I would say absolutely. I think a lot of organizations, one thing they want to do, they don't want customers to necessarily know they've been breached. However, if you're a publicly traded organization, the SEC actually requires you to report all breaches and what you've done to resolve them and how you've managed and how you're going to prevent it in the future. But yeah, there's a lot we don't hear about.
So with that, and too, as an associate professor, do you see more students wanting to go into this line of work? Because the opportunities, they have to be pretty vast.
They are. Oh my goodness. There is plenty of opportunity for job security and jobs in general for growth. But I think some students are turned away because they think it's all technical. But I want to say that there's a fair amount of non-technical cybersecurity. And I think maybe it's just they don't understand really what it is, because it is quite a vast discipline. There's a lot of different topics, a lot of different jobs. And there's a wonderful framework actually out there that is the NICE framework. It's a cybersecurity workforce framework that they can actually Google and get to. And there is some excellent websites out there that talk about the different specialty areas and then the job roles. And what's important about that is if they have no idea or if they're interested, they can go out there and take a look at what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities required for those job roles, and then actually compare that to what they're gifted at and want to do.
So if I'm a high school student and I'm thinking about this as a career, what advice would you give them?
Oh my goodness, research. Actually, I would highly recommend getting into that workforce framework so that they can actually see what jobs are available. There's also a really good, two different versions of a cybersecurity body of knowledge. There's an American-led version that is global in scope, but there's also a really good version from the United Kingdom. And that would, if you're a big picture thinker, that would give you the entire list of topics and different areas, knowledge areas. Now, obviously, you don't need to know every single knowledge area because people's personalities get drawn to certain job skills. Being a former hiring manager, I would learn, for instance, people who go into software development and coding, they're not the same kind of personality that's going to go into database administration or network administration. So what's really important about going into IT, there are lots and lots of job opportunities as well as cybersecurity. So you really need to, number one, learn what's out there, what's available, and the websites that are all free, they're paid for by our wonderful tax dollars. So all of this information is actually out there. So researching skills is important, as well as soft skills. So it's a combination of technical skills needed and soft skills.
So with that, you have years of experience in the IT industry. What attracted you to the industry?
Well, I love IT. I've always enjoyed technical. Way back, I want to say, maybe in the 80s, my dad actually taught me how to change an alternator and a carburetor in my first car. And it was an old Volvo, and he was terrific. He was very mechanical, and I just enjoyed that. And so I liked working with computers. There was something about building out a computer that was just unnatural, and I was very fortunate to be able to kind of wander in that, because I started off thinking I was going to go into medical, but when computers started to get popular in the mid-'80s, that's when I started off on a help desk and learned technical troubleshooting skills and kind of worked my way around an IT department from there.
Just think about back when you started to where we are today, how much the industry has changed.
Tremendously. And I think you need to be attracted to change. I love change. My doctorate's really in change management for most part, because the minute you put in a new software application, that's going to change the way people use it and the way people perhaps do their job. So you've got to like change to be in this industry.
So with that, we're speaking with Ann Kohnke. She's an associate professor, cybersecurity and information systems department over at the University of Detroit Mercy. When we're seeing the headlines right now, and we know that so many of these attacks are coming from overseas, do you think they're going to slow down at all?
Oh, absolutely not, because it's about money. And if we track the news now with inflation and the possibility of a downturn in the economy, it's only going to get worse. Because they're after, well, I take it back. There's different motives, but I would say the number one motive is financial gain. But there's also hacktivism, where they might deface your website, or if they want revenge, they might block people, denial of service. there's different motives, but yeah, unfortunately, it's going to increase, I think.
And so with that as well, because we've even seen it around here where Walled Lake Consolidated Schools, they were hacked, their system a few months ago, and so it's happening more, but also into these systems that we think are protected, like our schools and our police departments and our hospitals. So what can these institutions do to try to protect their information?
Well, I think it's good security controls. They need to have, well, first of all, they need to have the cybersecurity expertise on staff. Although there is a report that just came out, the ISACA State of the Cybersecurity 2021, again, that's also available online. It talks about a lot of organizations will hire consultants and contractors because they can't really afford to have full-time cybersecurity talent. That's an issue. I think they want hands-on experience, and a lot of people don't necessarily have hands-on experience. That's their biggest issue. But in order for an organization to really truly protect themselves, they need to have individuals that are full-time in their organization that really understand what is normal network traffic. You don't know if a hacker's on your network for months if you don't continuously monitor what is normal. And I think that's one of the worst things that can happen is you've got somebody sitting on your network that's hacked into it, and they're there for months, and they are just tracking all the, they're scanning all the data, they're finding out who's who, and able to spoof. And another issue too is training. One of the biggest issues, or one of the ways that hackers actually get on your network, is through email links. And they are getting more and more sophisticated. A lot of emails are really starting to look very professional. And if you can prevent an employee from clicking on a link that would download malicious software and in an open door, that would go a long way as well.
And it's like you said, they are getting so much smarter, because it used to be, even as just a regular person, you get these emails and you could tell because there were so many misspellings. Yeah. But now, we had Netflix, Amazon, they're really taking the logos and they look so professional. But with that too, even just the regular individuals, how do you really just prevent it? Because everything's digital right now. I mean, you have to exist in the digital world to survive these days.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I think from a personal, one thing you can do is you can actually get your own virtual private network and pay for that. It's a service so that your IP address is masked. You can also get into password management and keep changing your passwords. What's nice about some of these password management systems is they will actually use an encrypted password, which is just a bunch of letters and symbols and everything to get on, which is really helpful, because then now you can always change you need to change your password regularly. And I know people absolutely hate to do that. They resist it, but that's one way a hacker can easily, they're going to steal a password from one site, and chances are they can guess what your password is to your bank account. And if you also are very active on social media and you get on those and answer those, those 20 questions of all your favorite stuff. Oh,
why do people do those?
Well, I know, and really there's such, I can argue both sides on the benefit of some of these social media. Number one, you get connected to I've gotten connected to all sorts of family and childhood friends going all the way back to first grade, kindergarten actually. And so it's kind of fun. It's kind of, it's like as an adult, it's like, oh, I've known you 50 years. I didn't realize that. Right. However, on the flip side, the hackers it's so easy to get to this, your page. People think they've got their security turned on and privacy and nobody can see this but my friends. But you know what? If I'm a friend of a friend, I can get to your page. Oh, yeah. I can learn all about you, and I can spoof, and I can get into your bank account if I really wanted to.
So with that, Ann, too, can you talk about what is going on behind the scenes for these hackers? What are they doing? Because to me, they seem like these invisible trolls, somewhere. Like, how does it work from their end?
Troll is a very good word. Trolling is what gives them success. So they're going to constantly try to figure out a way to get into your network. One of the recent breaches was because there was a VPN account that was still active, but not used in a long time. And so they were able to get on. And if they can get on your network, they're going to troll it. If they're smart, they're going to be very low key. They're not going to start downloading all sorts of intellectual property right away, because then if your network's being monitored, you would see a spike in downloads and they would say, wait a minute here, what's going on? So they're going to troll, and they're going to want, first of all, they're going to do everything they can to get access to your network. And if they can do that by a social engineering, calling somebody up, pretending to be the help desk, because lots of people put in help desk tickets. I could probably create a whole research project where I spoof an HR site and I call people up just to maybe test to see if they've gotten some good security training, and I could pretend to be the HR department and, oh, I need you to log in and send them a link, and I could probably talk them into clicking on it, and here I've got their credentials. So the whole goal is to get the credentials, and then once they can get access to your network, now they're going to actually, at this point, they're going to want to increase their privileges, because if they're only spoofing or getting on with very limited permissions to get around, that doesn't really do them a whole lot of good. But if they can figure out the admin password, now they got the keys to the kingdom, and they can get to your databases, they can get to your data. If the motive is money, they can get to your Visa and MasterCards, and that's the other thing. You know, companies don't want to announce, oh, by the way, your Visa and MasterCard's been stolen. I mean, they would not do business. There's lots of other substitutes out there, so that's one of the reasons we don't hear about a lot of breaches.
And so with that, again, we're talking with Ann Kohnke. She's the Associate Professor of Cybersecurity and Information System Department over at the University of Detroit Mercy. And with that, Ann, too, is this organized crime? Is this like, or is this just one person sitting in the basement of his mom's home who's really good on computers?
It's both. It's actually both. There's some serious organized crime. You've got groups like DarkSide and Anonymous. You do have these loosely networks, you could call them, of people that they're out on the dark web bragging about their exploits. So there are groups, there are some very sophisticated networks of hackers, but then you also have a lot of individuals that are acting alone as well.
So do you, we've all been digital. We've heard about the Zoom bombs throughout the entire year. As a professor, and more classrooms and students are online, do you think that students are really starting to grasp the seriousness and, but also the opportunities that this industry offers?
That's a great point. I would hope so. I mean, if they've been bombed, I personally have not been bombed, fortunately, but thank goodness. So, but I think we're getting more and more awareness of cybersecurity, more so than ever. And I think that if students are getting interrupted, if their studies, and now that they are online, they're getting more technical. That's the other thing. There's just a lot of kids now, they are technical. They may be, now that we have more and more information that cybersecurity is a real career to go into, there's lots of opportunity. They might be getting braver in being able to say, I think I might want to go into that and take a look.
So, for all the students out there who, are the smart kids who try to go in and change their grades, well, this might be a really good industry for you to go into. And we watch the movies and we see where the governments or these companies will hire hackers that maybe at one time were on the wrong side of the law. Is that a reality in this industry?
I would say yes and no. On one hand, they want the skill sets, but on the other hand, I want to just implore your listeners, everybody, if you want to go into this field, you have got to consider, you've got to pass a background check in many cases. And you don't want to have any kind of, felonies, or even, you don't want anything coming up on a background check, because that will literally eliminate you from a lot of these positions.
So with that, Ann Kohnke with us over at the University of Detroit Mercy. Are you guys back in person?
We will be in the fall, absolutely. We've been able to do hybrid, so I make sure I don't want to lose any of my students. So the ones that really want face-to-face, I made a point of, I'll go on campus, if whatever it takes, but we are back on all. So we have had hybrid, and we have now lots of face-to-face coming up in the fall.
And Kohnke with us here from the University of Detroit Mercy, talking about cybersecurity. How hard is it for law enforcement to catch and dismantle some of these groups?
Oh, I really appreciated what the previous individual said, Curt, because it's difficult because of the resources and the training needed. And so I have a wonderful colleague, several colleagues actually, criminal justice I work closely with. We've created a Master's of Science in Cybercrime because the law enforcement needs training. They need to understand the tools. This is a whole new way of fighting crime. The traditional of being on the ground and face-to-face is really transformed. Not that that hasn't gone away by no means, but we're seeing so much more digital cyber crime. And I think a lot of these jurisdictions are small. They don't have the resources, the training. And I think that's really the biggest issue.
Yeah, you want to talk about being able to set yourself up for a bright future. Consider going into this industry.
Oh, absolutely. There's lots of opportunity.
And it's only going to grow as we continue down this digital corridor, which we call life. It's really unusual now to, even meet someone that has never been on the internet.
That's true. Oh, absolutely. The younger ones all the way down. It's fewer and fewer. I meet a lot of individuals in their 80s. They are digital. They are online. They've got their iPads there because they've got a lot of time. It's hilarious. They're actually pretty proficient. But yeah, there's fewer and fewer.
With that. So, Ann, we so appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this.
And again, anyone who is considering going into this field, do a little bit of research. And like Ann said, there are jobs that maybe you didn't think about. But I think you could set yourself apart and also really help a lot of people as well, because so many people are being hacked. And when the companies are hacked, we have to remember we all feel that impact as well. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. And then when we come back, our good friend Suzanne Levine from the Chamber will be with us here on the Megacast.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Just about 40 minutes left here in the show, and it feels so good to get out and feel like we're starting to get back to normal.
Yes.
You go to more stores, they're open. Some people still wear masks, others do not, but it just feels different this summer.
It does, and it's been weird for me. I've been over the weekend. I had to go to the grocery store, and I had to go make a Meijer run, and in both places, it's a mixed bag of people wearing masks, people not wearing masks, but just seeing more people out and about interacting with one another. It's been kind of odd because I've been so programmed to being used to people social distancing and wearing masks and avoiding those interactions, and just seeing them come back. It's been a little odd, but it's been really nice as well, and it's only going to get more along those lines as we go through this summer.
Well, we know for so many of the businesses, the lifeline for them throughout this pandemic has been our different chambers they've really helped navigate the, this traumatic time for so many of the businesses as they've tried to work to, keep the revenue flowing, because as Paul Glantz said, the bills still came. You still had to pay those bills. Suzanne Levine has helped so many businesses here in our area throughout the pandemic. She's the executive director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. She joins us now on the show. Suzanne, it's been a few weeks. How are you?
Great. How are you?
It's great to have you with us. How are things going over at the Chamber? More events happening in person now?
We're starting to really transition into more hybrid events. I'm really excited that in September, in fact, September 22nd, we're going to revisit our very popular health fair. We had to cancel it last year with our partner, the West Bloomfield Township. So we're pretty excited about that. I know that we've been consulting with Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital, one of our big sponsors, to see what their plans are for going into full in-person, and they're actually advising just a bit of caution, not to have like huge, 50 to 100 people kind of events. So that's why we're kind of treading slowly. But I know that our partner, West Bloomfield Parks and Rec, is now having their senior resource group talk times in person on campus over at West Bloomfield Parks and Rec. The Connect is not open yet. And also our other partner, West Bloomfield, the West Bloomfield Township Library, where we hold a lot of our Business Innovation Generator, our Women's Inspiration Network, and some others. They are probably not going to be open for their conference room till September, possibly not till October. So we're kind of trying to figure this, new terrain out. But certainly there is a lot of interest in trying to at least do, some partial in-person events.
Yeah, because we do know that there are still quite a few people that are uncomfortable with going out in public, or maybe there are still a lot of people that made the decision not to get vaccinated as well. But do you think that hybrid model is going to be here to stay now?
I think it will be here for a while until we get through the rest of 2021 and see what happens, if there's any kind of surge or variants that's going to affect the population. And we certainly don't know how the vaccines are going to react towards them. So I think a lot of people that I've spoken to are still proceeding with some caution. I know a lot of vaccinated people that are still wearing masks in the Costco's and the Kroger's, et cetera. So I think this is uncharted territory, and as excited as we are to be back to some sort of sense of normalcy, I think there are a lot of people that want to err on the side of caution.
So with that, Suzanne Levine with us here on the Megacast, Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Suzanne, you really do have the pulse on the business community. If I can ask you, what is the thought around vaccines and requiring people to show proof of vaccines? We really, it seemed like earlier we were talking about that, but now it seems to just kind of be the honor system.
Right. And I know that there are a lot of people that, oppose kind of identification because we know that it can be forged. I know there were people that were showing their vaccine cards online, and then people were copying them. So, I think, the community is kind of divided. There are people that believe that you should have some proof that, that you're vaccinated. It is an honor system. And, I think that, we'll have to take a better survey of the community, the business community. But I think they're just so happy to have people back in their stores that at this point, they're just trusting that they are vaccinated as they, claim they are.
It really kind of puts business owners in an awkward position as well. And we do know that the hospital in Houston, the judge just ruled for them that they can mandate that their employees be vaccinated.
I know that the health systems here are debating whether or not to mandate that all their employees are vaccinated. It's kind of a big debate because there are health workers or people that work at the hospitals and some of the clinics that, just refuse to get vaccinated for, whatever reason. So that should be interesting. I think we're awaiting some sort of decision from our big health systems to see which direction they're going to go. I know that some of the schools are going to require it, but I know there is some hesitancy because, as these studies come out, I know Cleveland Clinic did a study where they said that someone who had COVID should not get a vaccine because it doesn't provide any extra protection, and that they have just as much protection as someone who's vaccinated. So how do you prove that you had COVID? Is that going to be something, that you're going to need identification for? And also, the recent study that said 16 to 24-year-olds, there's that heart inflammation that seems to be some sort of, byproduct of getting Moderna and Pfizer. Now, I haven't heard anything about Johnson & Johnson, so I don't know if they're not included in that, recent, outbreak of this inflammation in 16 to 24-year-olds of, their heart.
It's like we said, for some of the business owners, it really kind of puts them in a hard spot as we continue to try to navigate the pandemic, in which we hope we are coming out of the pandemic, and that because we are seeing in England with some of the variants that they are not going to be loosening the restrictions just yet because of the variant. So let's hope we don't get there. But Suzanne, I know that recently when we were speaking with Brian Calley, he said that one positive side of the pandemic could be so many more people have registered new businesses here in the state of Michigan. Do you think we're going to see, a spark of new businesses coming out of the pandemic?
I do, and I know that even from the chamber perspective, we have several new businesses, but most of them are in healthcare, whether in med spas or in senior health. There's been quite a bit of activity in the healthcare field. So I'm hoping that there will be a lot more of a spark in restaurants and other businesses, but I know, retaining and actually hiring new employees has been very, very difficult. I've spoken to several businesses and they can't even get people to come out for interviews. People will say that they're coming out. They even offer like a $50 gift card and they're just not showing up. So I think, when we stop, sort of encouraging people to not go to work by giving them extra money to stay home, perhaps, instead of doing that, we can actually offer them incentive to go to work, whether, stay there for 6 months and here's $1,000 bonus, and maybe the government can help with that. But I think we really need to figure out a way to start encouraging people to go back to work. I don't think it's just fear that's preventing people from work. I think it's they're making more money staying home.
So with that as well, Suzanne Levine with us here on the Megacast from the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. Suzanne, what advice and help are businesses asking for right now? Because they want to recover, but yet many of them are limited in their recovery because of the employee shortage.
Well, I'm really trying to encourage them, especially if they're a chamber member, to contact me so that I can make introductions, not just with consumers, but with other businesses that may be able to do an exchange. Perhaps that business promotes them, perhaps they promote that business. There might be some sort of, collaboration that they haven't thought about. I think I mentioned one of my earlier successes was with a young pizza parlor owner, and I connected him to all these real estate agents and asked if he could deliver a pizza to people that moved into the neighborhood, introducing himself, hello, this is my business and enjoy a free pizza. Welcome to the neighborhood. And here's a coupon for future business. So really trying to sit down with them and strategize about ways that they can perhaps increase their business that won't cost them any extra money.
Yeah, a lot of this has been about collaboration and reaching out to one another and thinking outside of the box.
Absolutely. I think that that's sort of the name of the game. And I don't think that this one-on-one, connection is ever going to go away, because we know that service is key. Employee service, one bad interaction with an employee at your business can really ruin all the thousands of dollars of advertising you do. So I think people, especially if they go into a store, they want to be taken care of. They don't want to be ignored. It's one thing if you go into a large box store, you know that chances are you're not going to get the service, you need or want. But if you go into a small boutique kind of store, people want to be taken care of because they know that they're not, the prices may vary from, they can't offer what a Walmart or a Target or some larger store does. So, service is key.
Yeah, it's all about service right now as well. And Suzanne, what other events does the Chamber have going on? Anything in the pipeline other than the health fair?
Well, we are working on our leadership luncheon, and we're working on, on securing a really great leader, and that would probably be in person. It would be limited, and maybe we would do like a hybrid where part of it's, aired on Civic Center TV, perhaps. And I'm waiting to hear from Dave, Scott, and Tyler if we're going to have a Vibe 2.0. It was so successful last year, our 2-day extravaganza. So that would be also great to do some sort of a hybrid, kind of version of that, maybe partially in person at like an Orchard Mall and in the studio. So I'm waiting to get, the go-ahead from them. And we also have, we're doing our senior resource talks in person, and we're going to maybe revisit our Cup of Connections where we meet at a local coffee shop and see how that goes, see what kind of reaction we get. Certainly by September, we will be, meeting in person.
So with that, Suzanne Levine with us here on the Megacast from the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. And Suzanne, how's it been for you over the past year? I feel like you always have to be creative.
Yeah, I think that's, even before this happened, I would tell all of my businesses that you cannot rest on your laurels. You have to reinvent yourself. So it's sort of like been my motto my entire life, especially as I was a TV producer, many moon ago. I think you really just have to figure out ways to distinguish yourself, because there are thousands of real estate agents. There's so many different assisted living places. There's different hospitals, there's doctors, there's beauty salons. So what makes you unique and special? And so that's one thing that people need to think about, whether you're a chamber member or not. What makes and that's what you should really play on. Maybe you do delivery. Maybe you have a personal shopper. Maybe there's something about your merchandise that they can't get anywhere else. So, or maybe it's just the home health care. Maybe it's the quality of your staff that comes into the homes and, treats your parents like their own parents. Everyone needs to figure out what distinguishes them from the pack.
Yeah, and we should, remind people as well, shop local. We're not out of this pandemic just yet, and so many of these businesses are still struggling.
Absolutely. We have our SOS, our Support Our Shops campaign with LaFontaine Automotive. We're so grateful to them, where twice a month we have a trivia question, and the first person to answer receives a gift card that LaFontaine has purchased from some of our local chamber members. So it's a great way to bring people into their store. Maybe they've never, shopped, even knowing our local UPS store, our restaurants like Crispelli's and Nara, or some of our other smaller shops. So it's a really great campaign. I'm hoping to continue in 2022, just to bring people into these shops, and it doesn't cost the shop owner anything, which is great. So we're supporting our local shops, and also the people are great because they're excited to win a gift card. Who doesn't love free stuff, right?
Exactly. We all like free stuff.
Right.
So with that, Suzanne Levine, where can people find out more information about the Chamber and some of the events coming up?
They can visit our website, westbloomfieldchamber.com. They can email me at wbloomfieldchamber@gmail.com, or even give me a call, 248-626-3636. I help a lot of people in the community that aren't even chamber members, just because I feel it's sort of, my obligation and my mission, to try to support our community, because I live here, I work here, I, try to support all of our local businesses. We have so many unique shops. And at the end of the day, our school system, our township, our businesses, we're all connected. So, let's go out there and do whatever we can to make, today better and certainly our future for our children and grandchildren down the road.
So, such good words to leave on. Suzanne, it's always great having you with us. We appreciate your time, but also all the work that you've been doing to try to keep some of the businesses open and up and running throughout the pandemic.
And thank again for all the great work. You guys are really the unsung heroes. Every day, interviewing businesses, giving them a spotlight, letting people know what's going on in and around our community and Oakland County. So thank you again for all your hard work. We really appreciate it.
Suzanne Levine, Executive Director for the Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, the Mayor of Pontiac will be joining us on the show. That's next here on the Megacast.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is. Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's a second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid. Can I ask you a question? Why did you get vaccinated?
I'd like to go to these school dances and spring break to have fun.
I want to be in person for college next semester.
I want to get out of this pandemic.
I wanted to protect the people around me.
Why did you get vaccinated? Because I'm really looking forward to hanging out with my friends.
I just want to go to a show, dance around, not have to worry about anything, feel like I'm free again.
So we can not miss out on the best years of our life.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
just about 15 minutes here left in the show. You know what, Tyler? Just like the weekend, the 2 hours flies by like that.
It really does. It really goes very quickly over here. Once we get started, we start having a little bit of fun. All of a sudden, boom, it's over, just like our weekends run.
So Friday night, I was lucky enough, went with my girlfriend to downtown Pontiac for Art Jam. It's such a cool event. It really was until the downpour. We had to dodge some major raindrops there, but I will say, so creative. Some good things are happening in Pontiac. To talk more, let's bring in the mayor, Mayor Waterman, with us now. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me again.
The Art Jam was so cool. Like Tyler, in the middle, they had this one section, really great artwork, but then they had these murals, and everyone got to go just paint on the murals that I believe are going to be then positioned throughout the city.
That's exciting as you hear that Pontiac is becoming a cool place to be. We have a lot of cool events that are coming up that will invite people and trans people, and so we're here to tell you about that and to give the beacon call for those who are realizing that Pontiac is now a destination city again.
Right. We need people to come into Pontiac because I feel like, Mayor, it was like, it's like stop and go, stop and go, and stop and go. There's a little momentum, and then something happens, and it shifts back, and you're picking up speed, and then COVID hits. But what is in the pipeline for the city right now?
Where do I begin? So we have a number of events coming up related to the Dream Cruise was starting out, kind of the automotive related. We call that Pontiac Power Week in the city of Pontiac. And that's going to be the second and third weekends of August. And then we have, for the first time, coming to the city of Pontiac, the North American International Auto Show, which is going to be called Motorbella. That's going to be in September, followed by the American Festival Speedway. Those are the major events that are coming to the city of Pontiac, in addition to the fact that Roadkill, which is the drag racing along Woodward, will be part of that Power Week that we have here in Pontiac. But before that, we're going to be announcing those events and others by the fact that I am going to open up that Phoenix Center amphitheater that has been long vacant, that has been a lot of history about how we have maintained ownership of that to the city of Pontiac and are revitalizing that. And I'm going to be opening that for the inaugural event there for my State of the City, which is going to be June the 28th, 2 weeks from today at 6 p.m. We're going to be on top of that Phoenix Center amphitheater that has been long vacant to show people what the future vision is, how we develop that as an entertainment mecca right here in the heart of our Pontiac city. So that's going to be a real stunning event, an eye-opener for those who have not been there in some time and who remember the festivals and concerts that we used to have on the Phoenix Center amphitheater.
It is so exciting to hear that that's coming back. And while you're at it, I'm going to be the first one. We had this conversation while I was in Pontiac. We think Pontiac needs to get Arts, Beats, and Eats back because it was so much better when it was in Pontiac than Royal Oak. There's no parking in Royal Oak. The businesses don't like it. We need Arts, Beats, and Eats back.
I agree with you. I loved Arts, Beats, and Eats when it was here. I was sad when it left. That was not during my administration. But I've been slowly trying to convince the promoter who has the franchise, who has the contract signed with Royal Oak. And we're trying to get that back because I'm working with the promoter, and he's the one that's bringing in our Dream Cruise Power Week activities. So as you see, I've got that working relationship, and maybe we could ease it back to Pontiac. And now that we have the Plaza Amphitheater, and that whole center of the downtown developing, that will be a ripe and ample opportunity to bring that back here to the city of Pontiac, and that's one of the things I have on my wish list.
Hashtag bring back Arts, Beats, and Eats. So with that, Mayor, if I can ask, though, because one thing I did notice, unfortunately, in downtown, there are still a lot of empty buildings. And I think some of that centered around some of these business owners waiting to see whether or not they were going to get the license for the marijuana dispensaries. Where do things stand in that arena?
Where that stands is that the way the medical marijuana was brought to town, it wasn't brought to town by our council, it was actually brought to town by people who introduced a referendum. And the way they brought it to town was to put all of the power for the applications and the decision-making in the hands of our city clerk, who's not elected, he's actually appointed by city council. So although we've been trying to help the city clerk to move along, in 2.5 years, he was just overwhelmed and had not gotten the license process going on. So we're happy to say that downtown has been held up for so long, but people are waiting. I'm just waiting to bring economic development that it will bring to our city. The citizens voted on that. And so that is my duty to institute that and implement it. But we're waiting for the clerk to issue the licenses. He has just recently now issued the rankings for the award winners for the 5 provisioning centers that will be downtown. So we hope with that, that's going to help to open this up and move it along for people who've been waiting and sitting on these options for our downtown buildings. Because I, as a mayor, like any mayor, want to bring that economic development industry to the city of Pontiac. I'm just waiting to cut the ribbons for these places who are going to bring that economic development, as well as all the community benefits. That is what I've been trying to help the clerk get through this process. So as a mayor, I can introduce those in. I'm waiting to cut the red ribbons and to assist getting that industry brought to town in a way that's going to bring economic development and vitality to our downtown and the rest of the areas of the city.
Mayor Waterman with us here on the Megacast, the mayor of the fine city of Pontiac. And with that mayor, too, we're hopefully on the backside of this pandemic. Our offices, City Hall, are the offices at City Hall open now?
Yes, they are. The June 1st, I declared the end of the state of emergency that I had declared way back in March of 2020. So it's been 16 months in which we've had to manage the pandemic. We never missed a beat in the city of Pontiac. We were still functioning full scale, just mandating under the systems of COVID restrictions that we had to do. But the city was still thriving, and we still had a lot of projects going on. One of the projects which is going to be coming to fruition is Amazon, which officially is going to be finished in terms of the construction phase. They will be delivering packages from that wonderful fulfillment center right on the old Silverdome site by the end of July. So this is amazing. The site is, that Amazon Fulfillment Center is 4 times as big as the Silverdome. It's amazing to see. We're going to be doing a tour, our last tour, to see all the robotics and conveyors and all the wondrous things that they've instilled to make that Amazon delivery site such an important facility that we were able to bring here to the city of Pontiac.
Yeah, it really is. You drive by and it was like they built that thing like that. It is up. The sign is up. You can't miss it. And we were talking because you remember, how much the guy bought the old Silverdome from the city of Pontiac back in the day. That was before you, under the emergency manager. And you just wonder about the development that's going to go on there. But also, do you think it's going to bring more residents into the city of Pontiac?
We're certainly going to bring more workers and residents. We're bringing residents now because right now we're suffering the fact that we need to produce more housing. We've got 20 housing projects going on right now in the city of Pontiac. This is more housing development than they've had in 30 years in the city of Pontiac. That's because as we're bringing more industries in, businesses in, the Amazon is just one of them. They're now looking for 3,000 to 5,000 employees for that. So as we're bringing in new jobs, we're also bringing people who realize what a fine place it is to live in Pontiac, our parks, our beautiful neighborhoods. The people who put their houses up for sale, it generally takes less than 2 days to sell a house in Pontiac right now, because we are now the go-to city, and people are discovering that this is a good place to live, work, and play, and we welcome all those who have the interest in Pontiac.
So with that too, if one thing that when you move into Pontiac, though, the insurance rates go up, and I know this has really been a big issue and discussion in Detroit. Any talk around that issue in the city of Pontiac?
Well, we are like one of the metropolitan cities that are affected by that, in the situation of the insurance rates in Michigan in general, and certainly as part of the consortium of mayors that's looking at as a commonality of our issues with insurance rates. And of course, the new auto rates go into effect July 1st. And those were things that something that was worked upon for a number of years by people who had mutual interest in making sure that that was something that did not affect citizens adversely. So that's important for our citizens who also are affected by these rates. And we're going to be giving educational seminars to people to know how they use those new rates and those new options they have under the new rules that go into place July 1st.
So, Mayor, if I can ask you, what's this past year been like for you to try to manage a city in the middle of a pandemic?
That's been unusual because we haven't had a pandemic for the last 100 years, but we went about that much as we did anything else. We have to do about that strategically, realizing that health, safety, and welfare is the most important consideration of the elected officials, and certainly the mayor. I took that to heart. One of the things we had to make sure that we could do what we could to help to our citizens who were adversely affected. We brought in so many volunteer groups and aid to make sure that people got fed during the times early part of the pandemic when people were unsure about their jobs, could not work, were sick, take care of family members. We had to make sure that people did not suffer nutritional or food. So I'm just grateful for all the groups who gathered together conservatively to make sure that we had people fed, also to get people vaccinated. So we were very busy in making sure that we brought in vaccination sites here to the city of Pontiac to make them accessible, to bring down the barriers. We still have an initiative going with pastors of a number of our churches where we will take vaccination sites to their churches for people who are hesitant, want to do it in a place they're familiar where they don't have to make an appointment. So that's going on. It's continuing to be the backdrop, but we continue to function. We did whatever we had to do to make sure that we were able to function in our department. So we still have the services delivered because that was our primary responsibility. We took that to heart, but now we're opening up fully. We're welcoming back visitors to City Hall and to other facilities, and we're going to be announcing that and the plans to do that at the State of the City June the 28th. We hope a lot of people will attend and get all the Pontiac then, Pontiac now, and we're going to give them a little future vision of what we put in place for Pontiac in the future.
Look at that, a state of the city in person.
That's right, at the Phoenix Center Amphitheater. Lighting up that tinting awning that has been dead and not lit up for so many years. We're going to do that night. So that's going to be exciting for all those who remember Arts, Beats, and Eats and all those events that happened right there in the Phoenix Center Amphitheater. It's been a journey, but we won, and it's been very gratifying to be able to bring that and to give that win to the citizens of the Pontiac and all the people who are friends of this city.
So, Mayor Waterman, just a couple minutes here left with you on the show, and with that, can we talk? Are you running for re-election? Will your name will or will not be on the ballot?
I absolutely am running, and I am a candidate who is going to continue to give the messaging about the things I've delivered, the things we've said, and the progress that we've had through so much people I brought together, so many partners, so many resources. And we're going to continue that if the people want me to continue to serve them in that way. Due to some technicalities, I will not be on the ballot, and I'm asking people to write me in. And that's a simple process that they identify the mayoral section of the ballot. They write in my name. We're going to be having an education program on spelling my name. The last name's easy, Waterman, water and man. First name will tell them how to spell. And then they fill in the oval. Just a 3-step process. I'm asking people to write me in for this, to continue the progress hand in hand and shoulder that we've had. And then for the August 3rd primary, I plan to come in one of the top 2, and that means I would be on the ballot for November the 2nd. So that's the messaging we're taking out. We want people to know it, and thank you for mentioning that. I am, will be, and will stand firm and taking out that messaging to the public that I am a candidate to continue to be the mayor of the city of Pontiac, this great city.
So with that, Mayor Waterman, quickly on your State of the City speech, will you also be live streaming it, doing like a hybrid situation?
Yes, we'll be live streaming it, but there are ample seating for everybody there, even those who want to still stay socially distanced. We are going to do it on the 28th with the rain date of the 30th, but we're going to do it before this fiscal year. We're going to tell the people all the things that we have come through then, Pontiac now, all the wonderful things are developing, and all the things that hand in hand we can continue to experience in the future. And they're going to get that vision of the 3 cities of Pontiac. That's what we're going to tell them on the 28th of June. So be there.
I know it's been a long year. Deidre Waterman with us here on the Megacast, Mayor for the City of Pontiac. We want to say thank you for your time, and also, best of luck on the redevelopment and economic growth there in the City of Pontiac. It's looking bright right now.
Looking great. And thank you for helping us taking that message out to the public. Come visit us.
Tyler, it's great. There's some cool restaurants in downtown Pontiac right now, so it's going to be great to see, how it continues to grow, because with Amazon and some of these other businesses in one, I think it's going to put Pontiac back on the map.
Yeah, the excitement is there as we're coming out of the pandemic. The momentum was already trickling in before the end of this pandemic, and it's a really good-looking time for the city.
And with that, that's going to wrap up the Monday edition of the Megacast. We'll be back here bright and early, 10 a.m. Tuesday morning.